Welcome to our webinar. Thanks for joining. We're glad you could be with us. We're going to try and make this next hour as valuable to you as we can. First, this is our agenda for the day. We will be talking briefly about various business process maturity levels, and then proceeding to describe how business maturity can be achieved through enterprise mapping. Enterprise mapping includes business processes, business capabilities, applications, systems and data, and many types of business risk. Your presenters, Lisa and myself, Rob, are from Future Tech Systems, a company that has been developing software and providing business services for nearly 40 years, which in the IT industry represents eons. The persistent thread in our activities over this time is based on the belief in the value of business objects and object-oriented development. Our business object repository, Envision, created in the 1980s, has been under constant development and is providing value to large organizations as a universal modeling tool. I have been working with Envision for over 20 years in my field of business process optimization and corporate governance methodologies.
And I've been working with Envision for even longer than that, longer than I can remember actually. I head up our service delivery and operations.
How can an established company be immature? There are many organizations that depend upon the skill and flair of individuals. The sales manager, who's great at motivating his team and closing vital deals as year-end approaches. The finance director, who has all the key indicators of the firm in his head. These stars of the organization are also the weakness. There can be huge inconsistencies across the organization. If a star decides to leave the firm, then a lot of knowledge walks out the door. And if, for example, the manufacturing group decide to change the way they work, because manufacturing don't appreciate how sales work, it's very difficult to predict what the impact of those changes in manufacturing will be on the sales group or the finance group. There are many unknowns. Immature companies can be very successful, but they carry unknown quantities of internal risk. Stars can also be the root cause of catastrophic failure. Examples include Baring Brothers and Enron. Perhaps the star causing the most problems in recent history is Bernie Madoff. Process maturity, together with its associated disciplines, is fundamental to the good governance and elimination of surprises. How can a new company be mature? New companies need their stars, new ideas, energetic innovation, disruption to the status quo. New companies don't have established traditions. It's comparatively easy to set up enterprise-wide processes and model the new organization and link the models to transaction systems to measure performance almost synchronously. All new companies start Agile. The best become mature at the same time. Of course, every large organization has an overarching mission statement or set of goals, which helps focus individuals. But every role within the organization has a different perspective. In this picture, we see a typical executive round table where every team member has their own perspective. The CEO is leading the team towards their 2020 goals despite the fact that major external events are destroying previous assumptions. The manufacturing team are worrying about the uncertain availability and rising costs of raw materials, while the HR team is worried about the large number of workers feeling isolated because they are working from home, while the compliance and legal teams are really concerned about monitoring the volatility of day-to-day tactics, and so on. Each member around the table has a perspective of his or her own discipline. They also have a separate perspective of all the other disciplines around the table. Perhaps it would be more accurate to say there are over 140 perspectives sitting around this table. Unless the team is able to act in concert, there is no hope of corporate process maturity. In addition, if one department adopts Agile change management, then it introduces risks to other departments because there is general unawareness of change impact on the other groups. Maybe there are none. Maybe they're considerable. Who knows? This is not new. Togetherness was a theme of Henry Ford's business planning. Successful organizations have an unremitting focus on value creation. The focus should stretch from the C-suite through the entire operation. There's an enlightening case concerning a confectionery organization based in Canada. For years, the distribution department was considered a cost center, and in the opinion of the distribution management team, they were starved of funds and investment. They decided to change their approach to how they related to other parts of the business. They mapped their processes and capabilities and linked them all to value creation. From this point, they were able to quantify their value contribution to the corporation. It amounted to millions of dollars. Consequently, they were able to present investment plans which enhanced value. The distribution department of the organization in Canada is no longer underfunded, and its modeling methods are being adopted by country distribution groups in other countries. A value-oriented balanced scorecard is really based on just 4 deceptively simple questions. How well do we use our resources? How reliable are we? How easily can we change? How well do we do the right thing? But in order to attempt to answer them, managers and analysts need to be sitting astride an organization with mature activity management. This is achieved by enterprise modeling using products such as Envision. There are different forms of maturity models. They are not just for business processes, but other activities as well. Maturity models are frameworks which help to assess the maturity level in a specific domain, such as processes, capabilities, systems, and strategy plans. Process maturity models aim at assessing an organization's level of process centricity. They help to measure how effectively and efficiently the organization is working by means of its process management capabilities. The Business Process Maturity Model, as defined by the OMG, describes an evolutionary improvement path that guides organizations as they move from immature, inconsistent business activities to mature, disciplined processes. This model comprises of 5 stages, and each stage provides the foundation for the improvements at the next stage. It is a basis for continual improvement, as it helps identify process deficiencies in the organization and prompts improvements in logical, incremental steps. The maturity of an organization's processes measures the extent to which processes are explicitly defined, managed, measured, controlled, and effective. An increase in process maturity should mean that business capabilities are also more accurately classified and measured. We believe there are 3 main types of capability. Core capabilities. Core capabilities are defined as those built up over time that cannot be easily imitated, and therefore constitute a competitive advantage for the firm. Supplemental capabilities are defined as those that can add value to core capabilities but can be imitated. And enabling capabilities are defined as those that are necessary but not sufficient in themselves to competitively distinguish a company. In other words, enabling capabilities are those which a firm has to do in support of its normal operations and core capabilities. Enabling capabilities are distinguished from supplemental capabilities in that they are required but do not necessarily add value to core capabilities. These capabilities are candidates for outsourcing. It's a golden rule of outsourcing that you should completely understand what it is you outsource. You need a mature view of the processes, required capabilities, and touch points. Maturity models mostly consist of 5 levels with increasing capability and business value. Level 1, initial. Activities are inconsistent and results are difficult to predict. Level 2, managed. Business processes are controlled within work units and can be performed in a repeatable way. However, different work units performing the same task may use different procedures. Level 3, defined. Here we see the standard processes across work groups and guidelines, including QC, that support different business needs. Standard processes do provide an economy of scale. Level 4, predictable. Process performance is managed consistently throughout the organization. Business metrics are linked to value streams. Level 5, innovating. Organization-wide improvement actions identify the gaps between the organization's current capability and the capability required to achieve its business objectives. The business now supports the Agile methodology. Models are popular because they deliver clarity about a topic and, when widely shared, provide a standard methodology and vocabulary. This helps focus the whole organization on the reality of the current situation and on the business goals. The Envision team have worked on a large number of popular business models over the past decades, and we recognise that they do have some weaknesses that need to be overcome if these models are to deliver true value. Models tend to imply a final state. In the case of this model, Level 5, Innovating indicates that the organisation is mature and its problems are at an end. Not so. To even think so undermines the concept of continual improvement and the ability to react to external change. There is no final state. Reaching Level 5 invites the organisation to return to a lower level and start again. With this model, Level 3 is the most popular restarting point. The route to maturity is hardly ever a linear progression. The real world is full of obstacles, tangents and detours. Level 5 is likely to involve a blend of capabilities and compromise, rather than an arbitrary level of maturity. Progress to maturity responds to evolving priorities, rather than a fixed sequence. Organizations tend to establish projects to improve maturity, and of course, when the project is completed, the model gentrifies. Any organization that claims to be agile must continually improve the technical and business context of processes and capabilities. Attaining Level 5 will identify areas of improvement. The teams that achieve Level 5 will be motivated to continually improve performance using agile methods. Envision users typically link the repository to live data and create dashboards to measure performance and highlight where improvements can be made and help root out non-compliant business activity. Level 1 is the starting point and assumes that there has been no consideration of maturity in the organization. Progress depends upon individual flair and documentation is chaotic. No one claims to be at this level, but it's surprising how many features of this level can be observed by outsiders. Level 2 is the level where members of each work group get together and try to define workflows and consider how change management can be performed within the work group. It's a departmental initiative. The danger is that the single successful department becomes a star. Level 3. At this point, workflows have been designed and there has been some consideration of optimization. Quality management has been designed and there is now a better understanding within the team about change management. There is two-way dialogue between the workgroup teams and the IT and compliance groups. We are at Level 4. Process management now pervades the whole organisation and one department's workflows is aware of the processes in other departments. All across the organisation there is now an awareness of the importance of value stream management. This is the top level of maturity, Level 5, and it is the level where innovation and agility can be executed well because there is a widespread understanding of the risks and rewards of the business, as well as the risks and rewards of continual improvement. In our experience, just as organisations are not aware that they are still at Level 1, there are those that believe they've achieved Level 5. It is vital that the teams that have ownership of the maturity process continually validate the organisation compliance.
How do you know that you have arrived at Level 5? There are 5 sets of key indicators.
Level 5. Validation. Goals and objectives.
Our employees do understand the organization value streams and their role in contributing value.
Culture.
There is continuing sponsorship from senior management for an agile organization. We have proven that our internal communications are adequate for a culture of continual improvement.
Processes.
Our processes are fully modeled and linked to our capabilities, systems, and value streams. Regular peer reviews are scheduled to make sure that processes are being re-evaluated for effectiveness.
Technology.
We can now honestly say that IT is focused on our value streams. We have made the best current guides and enabler information readily accessible at the point of need. Departmental activities be monitored through an enterprise-wide dashboard. Our departmental apps are now properly managed.
Governance.
Our guides and enablers are readily available at the point of need. Are they being used? There are dashboards that deliver meaningful information, reports available on demand to support every role. Process audits are easy to execute.
Back to me. Thanks, team. Where to start? That's a good question. There's a temptation not to start, just to get on with a set of departmental Agile projects. It's easy to show results. Quick wins are to business analysts what lumps of sugar are to horses, but actually, the route to enterprise mapping is a series of quick wins. It's just they are strung together. Enterprise mapping is just about placing all those wins, all those business disciplines in the same environment. What emerges is an enterprise model, delivering views of true maturity. Let's follow the example of an East Coast healthcare insurance company. They reckon they were at level 2. Perhaps some would say that level 2 was rather generous. Nevertheless, the problems with being only level 2 were clear across the whole enterprise. The first step was to get control of the business processes, which were being drawn, usually in Invisio, and held separately in each department. A project was commenced to enable the enterprise to own all its processes, and this was done by establishing a Business Process Center of Excellence. The firm chose Envision for its business process environment because they knew it had the potential to become an enterprise-wide repository. They jumped onto the Envision Ferris wheel on the business analysis car and started process mapping using BPMN. Then they joined the data architecture car to link processes to applications and system technology. Pretty soon they realized separate departmental apps could be abandoned. User groups could have their own methodologies and look and feel, but each object is the same in the underlying repository. Lisa will be showing you this in a few moments. This reduces costs, supports consistency, and enables accurate data roll-up in organization-wide reports. All the current processes were mapped in Envision, and as that work progressed, these processes are linked to IT applications, systems, and environments. This had the effect of focusing IT energies on current business needs. Then came data mapping, and now the business process repository was looking more like a shared enterprise architecture. The repository started taking data from live transactional systems to enable internal reporting. This became so successful that Envision was established as the tool to produce statutory reports. Adding a matrix of business capabilities and a functional organization chart were straightforward tasks that took very little effort. After 2 years, the organization knew that it had moved from level 2 to level 5. Incidentally, this is a view of the inputs, outputs, guides, enablers for the organization's processes relating to managing corporate assets. This healthcare insurance company now has a Business Process Center of Excellence engaged with continual improvement in the business lines. It has views of all main processes linked to assets such as applications and capabilities. It's managed to produce an agile change management methodology. It has automated statutory reporting. It focuses on value streams. All this achieved with fewer tactical applications. Let's look at an example. Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, Rob. The steps to becoming mature can seem overwhelming, and organizations get stuck in firefighting mode quite often. But getting started is easier than you think, and you can actually build agile, connected enterprise models while putting out fires. The key is to have a single repository, powerful and flexible enough to store all your corporate information, from goals and metrics all the way down to data models and workflow diagrams. But it can be tough picking the right repository tool. If you've never used a true object-oriented tool before, then you don't know what you don't know. I've been doing this for over 20 years now, and today I hope to show you what you need to know when looking for a repository-based modeling tool. I'm using the Envision toolkit from Future Tech Systems, which I think is the best tool on the planet, But my intent today is not necessarily to focus on Envision specifically, but to show you what to look for in a good repository tool. So let's begin. If you want to start on the road to maturity, the first step is to start putting all of your models, diagrams, enterprise informations in one location. By simply making buckets for people to start entering their data, we can start to gather all of the necessary information as they do their normal day-to-day work. In order to make this happen, you need a tool that offers flexibility and customization. You'll notice our top-level portal here. It looks a lot like a web page or PowerPoint presentation. In order for your tool to gain acceptance enterprise-wide, it needs to speak to all stakeholders, not just those interested in seeing technical views or BPMN notation. The ability to customize the user interface as well as the modeling notation and even the attributes you are gathering is vital to success for any repository tool. So flexibility begins with the ability to model any notation using any symbol set and gathering a variety of attributes that can be customized by the user. As your stakeholders start working, they can use their own methodology and notations to draw diagrams, gather data, and work in a way that they are used to that makes sense to them. If you can adapt to their notation, rather than forcing them to learn a new way of modeling, they are more likely to use the repository tool when fighting fires and doing their day-to-day work. By getting everyone to start working in the same place, you begin to build your enterprise solution one day at a time. So in this example, we've created various buckets for users to start storing their information, and we've implemented the notations and methodologies that they're currently using. Let's take a look at some of these examples. We'll start with technology. In the technology department, our users wanted to start with a more functional view of the organization. Even though our business analysts have great process maps and capability models, for the tech department, they feel more comfortable and it makes more sense to them having a breakdown through a functional lens. Everything is interconnected in the repository, so they can have their data organized functionally, but still aligned to the process and capability models. I'll show you what that looks like as we go. We've also captured services views that allow our technology department to see what services are being rendered and expected by various organizational units. Again, this is done in the notation that they were already using, and these diagrams look exactly as they did in Visio before we imported them into Envision. Another key to a successful tool is the ability to import the diagrams that you already have. Whether you have these in Visio or other modeling tools, users aren't going to want to redraw and remodel work that they've already done. Make sure that your tool, like Envision, can import from a variety of sources, including XML and customizable import filters. And again, flexibility in your tool is key. We want to allow for technical and complex diagrams that gather data and can export that information to workflow engines or other sources for automation. Exporting is just as important as being able to import. But our tool also allows us to draw pretty pictures that speak to our C-level and high-level executives. So now that we have IT contributing to our enterprise solution in their bucket, we can start linking in the business data and connecting it all together. That really is the key to maturity, to have all of your objects, goals, strategy, metrics, processes, systems, data, all interconnected and linked. So if a change is made, all the impacts are immediately visible across the entire enterprise before you implement the change. On the business side, we're going to start by gathering the existing capability models and putting them in one place. And sometimes these are not even diagrams. Sometimes this is just a list or a table that we're importing. A nice to have when looking for a tool is one that can take data from a table and create a diagram or visualization from that data for you, like the one you see here. By importing the information from Excel, our tool created the initial view of our capabilities, along with bringing in the underlying attribute information. All of the data that was previously in Excel can now be viewed visually in the tool and modified through property sheets. Again, providing users with formats they are comfortable and familiar with is key. But by using a repository tool, all users can now work in one place, and the views, tables, attributes are all linked together. Now, as our business users do their day-to-day work, they can begin to build out the underlying capability models as they go. Users can create more detailed capability views or continue to enter data through a table view. If they just aren't loving the visualization, they can continue to use the table. I have learned over the years that some people just love tables. Not everybody wants a pretty picture. Meeting stakeholder needs while creating a linked and consistent repository is key to success. Let's take a look at the process bucket now and see how this all starts to link together. Here we have a customized view using a BPMN-ish notation. Our customer no longer looks like an actor icon, but it's still the same object in the underlying repository. Just because they look different doesn't mean they are different. This is an important question to ask vendors when looking for a tool. This is where not all repository tools are created equal. Just like with our capability models, we can continue to add more detail as we go. Here we have a customized BPMN notation. The organization has built a template for everyone, and you see now a few of our users have gone in and modified a couple of boxes on their own to be blue and super cute. It's important to make sure you pick out a tool that not only allows for customization, but also allows you to lock everything down and apply security. If you don't want your users changing boxes in your BPMN notation, if you want it to be consistent across the entire enterprise, Envision will allow you to completely lock it down and apply security around not only the look of the models, but also down to the attribute level. Another important use of our security within our project is to filter who can see what and what gets pushed out to the web or other reports. For example, our users have created a BPMN change layer to add clarity and help communicate what parts of the process are being changed. They've also added a systems layer to help visualize the systems through these lovely green boxes. While this information is very helpful to our BAs and IT people, we may not want to publish these to the web or printed reports or have them available for all to see. Security helps us filter who can see what and make sure that only the right people see the right information. Another key component of a successful tool is to allow users to add complexity as they go. In our BPMN models, we're now adding layers. These layers can be customized by the users to reflect information that they want to see. For example, we have a BPMN change layer with little sticky dots on the diagram. Now, because of our security, only the BAs assigned to the BPMN change team can see these sticky notes. When we go to print or report, these little dots won't appear on our models. We also have a systems layer. Again, we don't have to print these systems or display them on our web published view, but this is really helpful for our team. They wanted to see systems as these lovely little green boxes. We also have another layer with systems. And again, these are only available for viewing and reporting on by people with proper security. So not everybody has to look at these lovely green boxes. Now, here's a huge what to know and why you would use a repository over Visio or another drawing tool. If your users are going to want to do things like these green boxes, make sure your tool has what I call object-to-object linking. Make sure it has lots of different ways to create relationships. Obviously, when you draw a connector or put something on a property sheet or even create an underlying subview, you're creating relationships between objects. But in Envision here, I've actually created a relationship between the process and the system simply by overlapping or having those two pictures touching on the diagram. Only a really great repository tool can have this object-to-object relationship. Having object-to-object relationships allows me to not only see these changes visually on a layer, but also I can bring up reports and look at these through a matrix or other type of analysis within the tool. This data could also be in a spreadsheet, exported. You can do lots of analysis with the pictures you've drawn. And that's a huge difference between just a drawing tool and a true object-oriented repository. Easily updating the meta models as you go is another critical success factor in becoming and staying agile. As users begin, we may only have a few attributes we care about. But as time goes on, we may need to add pages and attributes to our property sheet. Be sure you pick a tool that allows you, the user, to easily customize the meta models not just the palettes, but also the attributes and the property sheets. For example, if we look at prepare food, we have some initial attributes that we're gathering, but as we go along, we have new metrics that we may want to capture, or new cost information, or a variety of customizable attributes. If you have to go back to the vendor every time you need to customize your property sheets or add attributes, that can become costly and time-consuming. Definitely not agile or mature. Let's take another look at prepare food. In addition to having attributes associated with this object, we can also have multiple subviews underneath prepare food. The ability to switch between modeling notations seamlessly within your tool is important. That way, underneath this object, we could have a view for systems, data, KPIs, resources, etc., all using different modeling notations, and it would be no big deal. Let's go ahead and click on Prepare Food, and here you'll see a context view. One of the subviews underneath Prepare Food is this custom context view our users have created. They're using their own notation with clip art and pretty pictures in order to convey their message more clearly. They've also added layers to help with clarity. We all know how complex certain views can be. The ability to separate compliant versus non-compliant, or as is versus to be information, even COVID requirements, is key to success. And just like we can customize attributes, these layers are customized by the enterprise, not the vendor. This creates agility in any situation, even a pandemic. You can't respond and change quickly if your repository tool can't respond and change quickly. This is where it is so important that you have a tool with consistency and persistence across models. When I click on Provide Equipment in this context view, I am able to link to applications and equipment defined and managed in the IT bucket. I can see and link to their data without having to traverse through all the data models on the IT side of the enterprise. But because everything is linked, if I do want to hop over to the IT side of the world and I have proper security and access, I can. Let's go back and find our customer object again. In this view, I've renamed our customer to be Pizza Customer. I've also done a Show Where Used to show all the different views on the left here where customer is used throughout the entire project. When I rename this object here to be Pizza Customer, it's renamed everywhere else throughout the entire project. So if I go look at the Customer Retention Systems view, you can see that the customer object has been renamed to Pizza Customer in the context view as well. When I rename this object back to Customer, those changes will be automatically updated everywhere. In our capability models, in our stakeholder view, even in an information view, Customer has been updated. In fact, not just in the pictures, but in all the property sheets, reports, textual references, spreadsheets, anywhere customer has been used, the name has been automatically updated. Make sure you're looking for a tool powerful enough to maintain consistency everywhere, not just in the pictures. This will not only save the BA time by not having to search and update all the references manually, but you know that the repository is always up to date with the most current information, and you can make informed and accurate decisions. To see an example of how we might start to use this real-time information, let's take one last look at our customer. We have jumped all around finding the customer on all the different diagrams. But what we need is a tool for quick and easy analysis. How can I determine all the touch points for the customer? Or even the cost of changing a system or the ripple effect of modifying our processes. That's the reason we've put everything into one place, to know how changes will affect the organization before we start implementing them. When I pull up a report for my customer called a spider diagram, I see all of the touch points that occur throughout the entire project for customer. By having the tool auto-generate this, we know that we are seeing the most current and up-to-date information. We could also view the same information through a spreadsheet or even export it to Excel for further analysis. As we begin to link all of the data that the users have put into their buckets across the entire enterprise, we create agility and maturity. We can now start to see the forest for the trees. As we begin to link in all of the data that the users have put in their buckets across the entire enterprise, we start to see the BPMN, the information, the KPIs, the systems, all of those things being linked together in one consistent and mature enterprise view. The key to becoming agile and mature is not just having everything in one place, but to make sure it's consistent and linked across the enterprise. So we're all speaking the same language, using the same terminology, referencing the exact same objects regardless of whether or not we're viewing the data from the IT view, the business view, the strategy view, then linking that data across models so it's easy to identify and measure the impacts. Easily customizable attributes and views are also key to staying agile and mature, so that as times change, you can change the things you measure and care about. The ability to update and customize your meta models is key. And of course, when looking for a good tool, reporting. It does not help to put the information in if you can't get it back out. If you can't analyze your risk, compliance, cost, metrics, strategy, technology, etc., it won't do you any good. Look for tools with template-driven reporting, the ability to create accurate and up-to-date reports and send them to Excel, Word, PDF, etc. with the click of a button once the template has been defined. To link and interact with other tools through XML or APIs is also important. But last but not least, we all love dashboards. Pick a tool that will allow you to easily create dashboards from the internal data. If we take a look at our dashboard view here, you can see that I have some sample charts from data that's actually in the repository. These charts are being auto-generated with our user-defined attributes. The final step here is communication. Just like we have different buckets for our users, we want to have different dashboards for all of our users as well. So make sure that you can get a tool that has customizable dashboards as well, so that you can make the right information visible and access to all members of the organization, whether it's inside the tool, reporting, on the web, whatever your format needs to be. Because bottom line, if your enterprise information is easy to see, linked and accurate, your enterprise can become mature and agile. I hope this has helped you know what you didn't know before you start looking for a repository tool. Back to you, Rob.
Thanks, Lisa. That was great. Now's the time for me to make my case that maturity is a prerequisite for agile projects. If ever there was a year when agility was crucial, not just for success, but survival, it's 2020. Let's look at COVID-19, lockdowns and staff furloughs, trains and boats and planes parked up or travelling almost empty, impeachment hearings in the US, stock markets around the world nosediving, oil and gas prices plummeting. Not a business in the land has been unaffected. For some, they were unpredicted opportunities. Didn't Amazon, Walmart and Apple do well? 2020 has been tough on some companies. Take Norwegian Cruise Lines. They've lost over 70% of their capital value. United Airlines down by over 50%. And many oil and gas companies have just shed value. So, as businesses cry out for rapid change this year, business agility methods are in great demand. But, at the risk of becoming boring, making rapid changes in one department without a knowledge of the impact on other departments introduces considerable risks. We believe that modelling the to-be state is safer than, let's try this, we can always roll it back. A mature business model is a quick and easy way to model the future and share an impact analysis across the enterprise. A business object repository is best used as an enterprise-wide application supporting everyone, from directors in the C-suite through to part-time sales agents. Obviously, there is totally different access to the repository for the different roles, but working with federal government has enabled us to pass that security test. An enterprise repository replaces all those annoying little departmental apps that seem so cheap, but in fact decrease maturity by adding complexity and reducing controls. A business object repository delivers consistency and integrity across all business disciplines. Consistency, having the same name for the same item in all departments. As a practical matter, this saves a great deal of project time. we've seen business analysts working for days to rename items on models to get that consistency. A common vocabulary across the organization is a real time saver and supports integrity. So when an attribute of an object is changed on one diagram, it should be updated on all diagrams. As well as helping understanding at a departmental level, it ensures accuracy when rolling up data from multiple diagrams. The Shared Business Object Repository delivers a framework to standardize processes, ensuring that your organization's best practices are captured, shared, and adopted. It means that the organization takes ownership. When a star decides to leave, your business knowledge does not walk out of the door. A shared business object repository can demonstrably improve project predictability and consistency. A shared business object repository can deliver cost savings because it reduces the effort required in change projects, as well as eliminating remediation and rework. A shared business object repository can hold past, present, and future models across all disciplines. Security is at object level, so who can see what is very tightly controlled. Envision models provide a common framework and language. It allows the organization to capture years of experience and expertise, helps users see the big picture while focusing specifically on departmental incremental improvements. Envision delivers how-to guides to agents and employees and facilitates training. Without a model of how an organization works and how business functions interact, it is more difficult to successfully implement projects for improvement. An Envision model is a great way of communicating how different parts of an organization interact and helps formulate that common language. Envision encourages discussions on what needs to be improved and how that improvement might be achieved. Looking at a model of the whole organization also helps prioritizing change projects. Mature organizations can be agile. Continual improvement is now practical. It is based on proven processes, defined capabilities, and business-focused technology. Mature organizations can be agile, and in today's environment, they definitely should. Shared business object repositories make valuable contributions to agile organizations because they encourage shared focus and purpose. They facilitate activity-based audits and compliance, and they provide the environment to experiment and to innovate. So what is the key benefit of creating a single business object repository holding diagrams and data across the whole enterprise? We can't put it better than the comments we received from that healthcare insurance firm. Envision has become our single source of truth that is trusted across the enterprise. I hope I've left enough time for some questions and answers.